What if always feeling starving between meals was not normal at all, but just a side effect of how most people in the West eat and live? In many parts of Japan, especially in traditional communities, people manage to eat less, feel lighter, and ainda si rarely experience that desperate, anxious hunger that makes you attack anything in the kitchen. It looks like a secret, but in reality, it is a set of small, consistent habits that quietly reprogram how the brain and body deal with hunger. Instead of trying to control appetite with pure willpower, they organize their day so that hunger never becomes an emergency. The timing of meals, the way food looks on the plate, the environment where they eat, and even how they move during the day all work together to keep cravings under control. You will see that they do not suffer to eat less. They simply live in a way that makes it easier to feel satisfied with less food. In this video, you are going to walk through these habits one by one and understand why they work so well, even sem parecer dieta. Some ideas will look simple, almost obvious, but when you combine them, the effect on your hunger, your energy, and even your mood can be massive. And there is one specific mindset shift that almost no one outside Japan talks about that will appear in the middle of this video and can completely change how you relate to food. Before we move on, if you want to keep learning about Japanese habits that make life lighter and healthier, take a second to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next videos. If your brain keeps asking for sugar, it does not mean you are weak. It means your system is adapted to constant peaks and crashes. Highly processed foods, sweet snacks, and drinks full of sugar teach your brain that relief and pleasure come in fast, sugary doses. Over time, your nervous system starts to shout for that quick fix whenever you're stressed, bored, or tired, even when your body doesn't really need more energy. In traditional Japanese food culture, sugar is not the main character of the story. Desserts are usually less sweet, portions are smaller, and sweet flavors appear less often during the day. Because of that, the brain doesn't get used to extreme sweetness as the default reward. At the same time, meals tend to combine vegetables, fish or other proteins, fermented foods, and grains in a way that keeps blood sugar more stable, with fewer violent ups and downs. This stability changes everything. When your blood sugar doesn't crash, your brain doesn't panic and scream for something ultra-sweet right now. Instead of living in a cycle of craving, relief, craving again, you feel a more constant, calm appetite. In this video, you will see specific Japanese meal patterns that help keep this balance, and later you will discover how to copy the effect even if you still live surrounded by cookies, apps, and vending machines. Hara ochibu is a short Japanese phrase that means eat until you are 80% full, and it completely changes the way a person ends a meal. Instead of waiting for the heavy, sleepy, almost uncomfortable feeling that many people call being full, they stop when there is still a small space of lightness left. It feels almost like pressing pause before the body reaches the limit, and that tiny pause is where the magic happens. By turning this idea into a social and cultural rule, 80% stops being a guess and becomes a habit. Families teach children to leave the table feeling comfortable, not stuffed, and even older adults carry this principle for life. Over many years, this habit protects the digestive system, reduces chronic overeating, and helps the brain learn that satisfaction does not live at the edge of discomfort. The interesting part is that the brain adapts to this new fullness point. When you train yourself to stop earlier, the body starts to send satiety signals sooner, and your perception of hunger slowly changes. Later in this video, you will see simple ways to practice your own version of hara hachi bu without counting calories and without feeling deprived. And you will also understand why this habit appears in studies about longevity and healthy aging. Imagine eating less and still feeling like you had a complete, satisfying meal just because your brain was gently tricked by what it saw. In many Japanese homes and restaurants, plates are smaller, bowls are individual, and food is divided into several little dishes instead of one huge portion. Visually, the table looks abundant, colorful, and rich, even when the total amount of food is much lower than a typical Western plate. The brain does not measure fullness only by how much enters the stomach. It also uses visual cues from the plate. When you see many elements, small plates, bowls, different textures, the mind interprets the meal as complete and generous, which increases the feeling of satisfaction. On the other hand, one giant plate full of food trains the brain to think that normal always means a lot, making smaller portions look sad, even when they are enough. Japanese tableware takes advantage of this mental shortcut. By using smaller dishes, leaving intentional spaces on the plate, and organizing food in a visually attractive way, they help the brain feel like it received more than it actually did. In the second half of this video, you will discover how to recreate this trick at home with the plates you already have, and how a 2-minute change on your table can make you naturally reduce portions without even noticing. Rushing through a meal is like watching the trailer of a movie and expecting to feel the same emotion as the full story. In Japan, especially in more traditional settings, eating is treated much more like a quiet ritual than a race. People hold the bowl, look at the food, say itadakimasu, a phrase of gratitude, and only then start to eat, usually in small bites, with pauses, and with attention. This slow pace is not only polite, it is biologically intelligent. The body needs time to release hormones that signal satiety to the brain, and that process does not finish in 2 or 3 minutes. When you eat too fast, the stomach fills before the brain has a chance to notice, which makes you overshoot and only realize you ate too much when it is already late. Eating more slowly gives your internal system time to catch up.
By turning meals into mini rituals instead of quick refueling stops, the Japanese way helps people enjoy more and crave less. When you really taste every bite, notice the texture, the temperature, and even the sound of the food, the experience feels richer, so the brain feels more rewarded with less quantity. A bit later in this video, you will learn one simple chopstick rule you can use even with a fork that can instantly slow down your pace and reduce overeating without forcing anything. In many Japanese routines, reaching for a cup of green tea comes before reaching for a snack. This is not just a cute cultural detail, it is a strategic habit that changes how hunger is felt between meals. Green tea brings a mix of gentle caffeine and an amino acid called L-theanine, which together create calm alertness instead of the nervous spike that coffee or sugary drinks often cause. This calm focus has a direct effect on cravings. When the mind feels more centered and the body slightly energized, that restless urge to chew something just because becomes weaker. At the same time, drinking something warm sends subtle signals of comfort and satiety to the brain, almost like a mini meal for the senses, even though almost no calories are involved. Over time, using tea breaks instead of snack breaks trains the brain to ask for a drink, not food, every time there is a small dip in energy or mood. In this video, you will discover when the Japanese usually drink green tea, which types are more interesting for controlling appetite, and how a simple tea habit in the afternoon can cut a surprising amount of mindless snacking without any feeling of restriction. Most people think hunger lives only in the stomach, but a big part of appetite lives in the eyes, nose, and tongue. Traditional Japanese meals explore this with intention. Multiple colors on the plate, aromatic broths, crunchy vegetables, tender fish, and soft rice create a complete sensory experience. When the senses feel richly stimulated, the brain receives a strong message of satisfaction, even with moderate portions. Smell plays a quiet but powerful role.
The subtle aroma of miso soup, grilled fish, or rice cooking in the kitchen starts the digestive process before the first bite. This anticipatory phase increases the release of digestive juices and prepares the body to use food efficiently, which can help satiety appear earlier. At the same time, simple, clean scents prevent the kind of overstimulation that ultra-processed fast foods create, which often leaves people wanting more even after eating a lot. Texture is another secret weapon. Crunchy vegetables and seaweeds, fibrous roots, and chewy elements like certain mushrooms demand more chewing time. More chewing means more time for satiety hormones to act, and it also creates a feeling of work done, which increases the mental perception that a real meal happened. Later in this video, you will see how to add at least 3 different colors and 2 distinct textures to your plate in a very practical way to help your senses feel satisfied and your cravings calm down. In many Japanese households, the day naturally revolves around 3 clear meals: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with relatively little grazing in between. This rhythm teaches the body and brain that food arrives in predictable windows, not as random small hits every time there is a moment of boredom or stress. As a result, appetite becomes more like a calm tide and less like sudden aggressive waves.
This structure also communicates safety to the internal energy manager in the brain. When meals are regular, the body does not feel the need to panic and store every calorie as if the next meal were uncertain. Blood sugar tends to stay more stable, and that stability is exactly what reduces the intense cravings that appear after long fasting mixed with sudden overeating, a pattern very common in rushed modern lifestyles. Over time, the internal clock aligns not only with sleep and wake times, but also with hunger and satiety. Many Japanese people start to feel naturally hungry close to their usual meal times and much less tempted to snack randomly at night. If you want to go deeper into this idea of using timing to control appetite, after this video you can watch one of the videos here on the channel about Japanese morning routines or night rituals. Choose the one that best fits your daily schedule and keep building this puzzle. When most people think about exercise, they imagine intense workouts a few times per week. But in Japan, a huge part of movement looks like nothing special: walking, climbing stairs, cycling, standing, and bending throughout the day. This constant light movement keeps the metabolism active in a smooth, sustained way, which affects not only weight but also hunger regulation. The body becomes a little engine that never fully stops. Gentle but frequent movement improves insulin sensitivity, meaning the body can handle blood sugar more efficiently. When that happens, sugar peaks and crashes become less extreme, and the brain receives fewer emergency signals to eat something high in sugar or fat immediately. At the same time, light activity can reduce stress hormones, which are big drivers of emotional cravings and compulsive snacking. Because movement is spread throughout the day and often tied to daily life, walking to the station, standing in trains, cleaning, cooking, it does not feel like a punishment for eating. This positive relationship with activity makes it easier to maintain over decades, which helps appetite stay naturally balanced in the long term. A bit later in this video, you will see how to build your own version of invisible exercise, even if you spend many hours sitting, and how just a few changes in your routine can calm hunger signals. One of the quietest skills in Japanese food culture is the ability to notice what kind of hunger is speaking. Real physical hunger tends to grow gradually, can wait a little, and is satisfied by a full, balanced meal. Emotional hunger appears suddenly, often targets very specific foods, and usually arrives together with feelings like stress, loneliness, or frustration. The Japanese way of eating, with its pauses and rituals, creates space to ask, what am I really needing right now? Mealtime expressions of gratitude, like itadakimasu before eating and gochiso-sama deshita after finishing reinforce the idea that food is something to be respected, not a quick escape. This attitude naturally slows down the reaction between feeling and eating. When a person pauses, even for a brief moment, there is time to observe if the impulse to eat came from the stomach or from the heart. Over time, many people learn small internal tests, such as asking whether a simple bowl of rice or miso soup would be satisfying at that moment. If the answer is no, only chocolate or chips would work, it is probably emotional hunger talking. In this video, you will discover simple questions inspired by this Japanese mindset that you can use before opening the fridge, and you will see how just 30 seconds of honest observation can save you from many episodes of automatic eating.
In many Japanese homes, cooking is not just a task to get food ready. It is a calm, intentional moment that starts the meal long before anyone sits at the table. Washing rice, cutting vegetables, preparing dashi broth, arranging ingredients in small containers, all of this creates a quiet familiarity with the food that is about to be eaten. By the time the meal is served, the cook has already met the food many times, which subtly reduces the urge to overserve and overeat. Preparing food at home also means having more control over portions from the beginning. Instead of opening a giant package and letting the eyes decide the quantity, Japanese cooking often works with measured ingredients, a certain number of vegetables, a specific amount of fish, a defined volume of rice. When there is a clear structure in the preparation, there is naturally less excess on the plate, and what is served tends to match what the body truly needs. There is also an emotional effect. When a person spends time and care preparing a meal, it becomes harder to eat mindlessly. Each bite carries a sense of effort and respect, which encourages eating more slowly and stopping when satisfied, instead of treating the plate like a challenge to be finished. Later in this video, you will see how even 1 or 2 simple Japanese-inspired prep habits, like pre-cutting vegetables or portioning grains, can help you automatically reduce exaggeration on the plate without counting anything. The Japanese approach to hunger control does not live only in the body, it lives in the environment. Many Japanese kitchens are relatively minimal. Fewer gadgets, less visual clutter, and often fewer ultra-processed snacks in plain sight. This simplicity reduces constant visual triggers that push the brain to think about food all day. When you do not see a bag of chips or cookies every time you pass by, a big part of the battle is already won without using any willpower. Storage habits also help. Treats and less healthy foods, when they exist, are often kept in closed cabinets or specific containers instead of staying open on the table. Everyday items like rice, miso, vegetables, and tea are easier to access than sweets, which gently nudges behavior toward better choices. The rule is simple. What is near and visible is what the brain will ask for first. The eating space itself tends to invite focus, a small, clean table, few distractions, and sometimes even the custom of not walking around while eating, all contribute to a calmer relationship with food. In this video, you will learn how to redesign your own kitchen and living area using a few Japanese-inspired adjustments so that the environment works for your goals instead of against you, making it harder to fall into temptation and easier to respect your natural hunger. Even in Japan, people sometimes overeat, snack more than they wanted, or say yes to an extra dessert. The difference is how they interpret these moments. Instead of turning one exaggerated meal into a story of personal failure, the common attitude is more neutral. It was just one episode, not a new identity. This lack of drama prevents the classic, "I messed up, now everything is lost, so I will eat even more" spiral.
The next step is usually adjustment, not punishment. After a heavier dinner, many people naturally choose a lighter breakfast or add more vegetables to the next meal, without starving themselves or skipping food completely. Movement can also increase gently the next day. A longer walk, taking the stairs, or a few extra household tasks. The body receives the message, we are back to balance, instead of, we are being punished. By removing guilt and the idea of starting over on Monday, the Japanese way turns setbacks into normal parts of life, not reasons to abandon good habits. This mindset reduces emotional eating because food stops being the place where shame and frustration are deposited. In the middle of this video, you will see a simple mental script inspired by this attitude that you can use after any slip so that one moment of excess does not become an entire week of loss of control. At this point, you have seen several Japanese habits that keep hunger under control: hara hachibu, small portions, slow eating, green tea, sensory meals, structured times, gentle movement, emotional awareness, and more. The secret is not to copy all of them perfectly, but to choose a few that fit naturally into your routine. When a habit feels like part of life instead of a strict rule, it is much easier to keep it for years. The first step is to pick one habit for your plate, one for your environment, and one for your mind. For example, you might start by practicing eating until you feel about 80% full, reorganizing your kitchen so that healthier foods are more visible, and using a simple question to distinguish real hunger from emotional hunger. Even these three changes, applied consistently, can noticeably reduce cravings and the sensation of being always hungry. From there, you can slowly add others: a daily cup of green tea between meals, a bit of invisible exercise like walking more and sitting less, or a small cooking ritual that makes you more present with your food. None of this needs to become a diet because you are not banning foods, you are redesigning the way your brain and body relate to hunger. And if this video helped you, remember to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear that living without constant hunger is possible, and that the Japanese may have already found the path.